Hello, everybody. Welcome to 2024 and another awesome episode of Sock Talks with Shawn, Joy. And hey, you notice we have a guest on here today, and we're super excited to have Mr. Sam Merrill on here with us today. Gosh, from Scottsdale, Arizona, and
Yeah.
19 years with Send Out Cards. Did I hear you say you're getting ready to celebrate your 30th anniversary? Or
No,
30th, on the 30th. You're on the
on the
30th.
30th, right?
On the 30th. Yeah,
My
yeah,
nine,
yeah.
Don't
my
confuse us,
19th.
Joy.
Yeah. You know what? I think that month of what was it, 2005, January. I think Bob Golden. Who else? There was a little handful of us that came on in that month,
Wow.
and so anyhow, I feel like, hey, I'm in really good company. I mean, with the Goldens and uh, but anyhow, I feel like, by the way, that I am in excellent company here because earlier I was able to congratulate you both on the 50% achievement, and that speaks so loudly, in parenthetically, in my opinion, that you guys have, Shawn, I think that uh, a book or maybe a series, something has to be done about you. And I'm
Uh-oh.
and I'm not so sure exactly what it is, but
Hopefully
you
it's not jail time, Sam. Is that what you're thinking?
you
Institutionalize
know
the boy. Come on.
I love what you did during Christmas. Um, Forgive me if you did that last year and it went by me. Was it a lot of those where you included other stars and then you
No,
was
that was
that all
pretty
new?
new. That was pretty new for this year, and I think I'm going to try to continue that. Who I've helped. Just it draws attention. So
That
I
is a
bet.
great book. A great
yeah,
book. Who have I helped? Just that would be your title, Shawn.
Yeah,
Who have
that's
I
good.
helped?
true.
Yeah, who have I helped?
Okay, well I'm out of here. I got to start writing. You guys have a good day.
Well,
Okay, now let's. Okay, see, we're off topic already, Sam.
I know, I
okay,
know.
So,
Well,
so
thank
the
all
you,
right.
Sam,
reason,
for those accolades as well. We
yes.
appreciate it.
So the
And
reason we have Sam on here, not only his 19 years in Send Out Cards, but he worked with a gentleman named Joe Girard, who, if you don't know about him, please Google him. And he grew his business through cards and letters every single month to his clients. So, Sam, give us a little background on what I really want you to talk to us about is give us a little background with your relationship with Joe, and then also what he's no longer with us, but what would
Right.
his take be with Send Out Cards, and how stupid would he think if you're not using it? And that was my opinion.
Yeah, well, I say that I say the same thing, and I think Joe would too. Um, Joe, uh, I've been. It's such a pleasure to have been affiliated, associated. I don't know what other terms we want to use with Joe, because life was exciting. Here was a living, breathing guy who made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. And by the way, he set out intentionally. That was part of his plan, his overall plan, that one day he was going to retire from the car business and he was going to strictly be motivational, uh, doing speeches, putting together the Joe Girard sales course, which I was proud to say that I wrote that with Joe, and it was a 12-week 3-hour session, and it was great. And but I'm getting off track. See, I get talking about Joe, I get excited, because the man was, you never knew what was coming with him, except he knew back. Uh, well, it was 15 years. I think it was 1968 or so. Joe had gotten involved with building. He was a small builder, and he took on a kind of an assignment, an agreement with some of the other the realtors in this small new subdivision, and he had 6 homes that he was supposed to complete. And in the process, he discovers that there's no water on there's no water rights or whatever it was. and it shut him down. He had to go, and they came the day before Thanksgiving that year. And I wasn't there on all this. I know this because of Joe, of course, telling me. They came, and he said, we were in Winnipeg, Canada, probably in maybe it was 1980, 80-ish.
Okay.
And there was a father and son team there that had a promotional business, and they had brought Joe in for a big conference. And in fact, it was very big for Canada. I think we had over 5,000 people there.
Wow.
So they invite us to their home for Thanksgiving dinner. And while we're there, at dinner, and Joe was always, wherever Joe was in charge. Everything. So the young son said, well, I don't know about the, it's Thanksgiving thing or whatever. So there, and Joe says, wait a minute. And he said, let me tell you what Thanksgiving means to me. He says, how would you like, you go home tonight and there's a moving van out in front of your house. There's a couple guys there. They have a piece of paper. They come in and they start moving your furniture out. And he says, suddenly they move it all out and you're standing there. You don't have your house anymore. You've got your furniture, but it's in this other truck. And he says, where do you go? What do you do? He said, if you come through something like that, you'll understand what it means, Thanksgiving means, to have the ability to recover from that. Because what Joe did, he went, he always bragged, he only went to the 11th grade in school. And of course, he was of Sicilian descent. He was very proud of that. His real name was Girard, and he legally changed it to Girard just to, I don't know, make it less, whatever.
At the time. Yep.
Excuse me. So anyhow, hey guys, don't let me get going too long here because I'll bore you to death with Joe. But anyhow, he goes and begs a guy he knew who was sales manager at a Chevrolet dealership. Please, 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 I need a job. The guy says, okay, I'm going to take a chance on you. And so Joe shows up, first day, sold a car. And, that started it all. He started selling cars. And the other guys in there got jealous of him. Within 3 months, he was gone. They whined, oh, Joe. So then he goes to Marola Chevrolet. And that's where he ended up with, what was it? Almost, he had a total of 15 years. So let's call it 15 for round numbers. That's where he set his records. That's where he did all of his work in so many terms. And from where he started, coming in and natural whatever came out of him, and he started selling cars. And over time, I think Joe, he had that very humanistic side of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it was because of what he had gone through and so on. This guy was such a champion. He loved people. He had the Apple Corporation. Joe Girard was using a little apple with a bite out of it. Back in the day when you could get you could either iron them on or sew them on, but it was an embroidered patch.
Yeah.
And it said, I like you, Joe Shawn. And he would hand those out.
That's cool.
And everybody loved him, and that's when he went to this was whatever vision he had when he said, I'm going to start sending greeting cards and thank people. He says, you know what I know? When a husband comes home, you notice how it's husband oriented. It's back in that
and it's 60s and 70s. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Dad comes home, it's hi, honey. How are the kids? Where's the mail? And then he grabs the mail and starts going through it. And he said, that's a way I can reach out to people and tell them I like them, and also keep in front of them.
Right.
And so he set up 12 cards, and they were nice cards. he didn't. I mean, they were the old embossed and
Right.
just gorgeous cards. But he never sent a birthday card. Once he started sending cards, he would select the month. March was St. Patrick's
Patrick's
Day,
Day.
maybe. And but he would just designate one month as birthday month and send a birthday card to everybody on the list. And he would think, oh, people get it and say, oh, it was nice he remembered me. Not my birthday, but
Right.
so anyhow, I think that started the momentum for him because Joe was a hail fellow, well met, however you want to describe him, and he loved working with people. I mean, he was just many things. He came up with these ideas in his book, How to Sell Anything to Anybody. He'd talk about taking lots of business cards to a ball game, and when there's a touchdown or there's a home run, you stand up and you throw the cards out there. He discovered the law of 250. He called it the Girard law of 250 from going in and looking at the Undertaker's records or whatever you want to call them, and would notice that range would average out to about 250 people. And so he called it the Girard law of 250. And he knew that 250 people on an average. He said, well, I reach out to you. We know how the rest of that works out and ripples. Excuse me. I'm getting excited now.
So
What I know so over 10,000 cars in the 13, 15 years. So he was selling 5 cars a day on average. And these were not fleet sales. These were individual people. And what I heard from you is his intention was to do that. His intention was to be a sales trainer after that fact. He had a vision. It sounds like he was very authentic and he liked people. So he probably, like you said, he could have sold, as the joke goes, ice to Eskimos.
Yeah,
it was
right.
Because the people connection, the relationship, not just I'm selling 5 cars a day. It's I'm dealing with people. That's fair statements.
Fair statement.
Okay.
Very
Okay.
fair.
So when he started doing this, Sam, did you say that was in the late 80s?
60s and
When
70s.
I started what?
60s, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he started in the early 60s.
In the early 60s, okay. And the way I think I remember hearing the story also is that he had to hire people to do the cards eventually. I mean, because he could not keep up on his own.
Well, that's partially true.
Okay.
The real story on that was he started sending cards and he knew that he couldn't keep, the thing was growing. It was always new. He ended up employing 2 people. He had one guy that worked the shop in the areas that followed up for him. The other guy was more administrative. He was, but they found, here's where they hit. He found an outfit in Chicago that back in those times, technology, as we know, is not what it is today. But they had a automated system where they would. He had 17,000 names. Was the top of the pile that they had in their system over there, and so they would actually generate the envelopes and the cards and would mail them out for him. So that monkey kind of got off his back, and by sheer quantity as the number of cards grew, and he was such a guy. I mean, he would take the shop, everybody in that shop and their families, to dinner in December, in the holiday period. And he'd take them down to the London Chop House, which in Detroit was, one of the top tier restaurants. And he would have a kids' day for Santa in the shop and would invite all the, his customers, the people in the shop, and he put on a big event like that. He was always, and as he became famous, the guy was such a self-promoter. I've tried to emulate him because maybe someday, I'll have a record like he did. He'd walk up to you and very unassuming, and he'd look at you and say, "Have you ever met anybody in the Guinness Book of World Records?" And he'd have in his hand a card, and they would say, "No." He'd slap that card in their head and say, "You just did. Joe Girard, world's greatest salesman." And he just was unabashed with it, and people were back why like that. And so where I got hooked up with Joe was probably in the late '70s. I had a friend in another company I worked for that had bought a car from Joe, and he took me over before I even know who Joe Girard was. And what his office and everything looked like then. It was like he had bookcases around, like partitioning off this huge area, and inside there he had chairs and this. He had a bookcase over here that had nothing but cigarettes in. "Hey, you smoke? What brand?" Of course, now that wouldn't be going over so well, but he'd grab a pack of cigarettes out. "Hey, have a pack on Joe Girard. Hey, you want a drink? What do you drink?" He'd turn over. He had all kind of alcohol, and he said, "What you drink?" He could pour you a drink. Now, not everybody took it, but you had to wait. It wasn't like you walked in and there's Joe and you stroll in. No, it's like a doctor's office. You had to have an appointment. Otherwise you couldn't have managed it.
Right.
And I think that the real secret, I don't know that word's so overused, but what Joe had was this integrity. He knew when I started my business, when he started his business, that he wanted everybody to get the same deal from him. Because I can remember a guy I used to work with. He said, "I've never bought a car in my life that when I walked off the floor, I didn't feel like I got royally screwed." And so Joe, and I may have experienced that a time or two in my life, but Joe wanted to make the same money on you, your brother-in-law, your aunt, your sister, anybody that came to him. They knew they were going to get the best deal. And it was Joe. I think it used to be only 150 a car or something. It was a relatively, of course, that was a lot of years ago.
Sure.
So but he did it on volume.
Yep.
He had that unstoppable thing about him. But I think recently, as time went on, what Joe and I got together, and we met. And back then, I was in a different business, obviously. I thought I was very successful. I don't know whether the world did or not, but and I always drove a Cadillac. And I had just gotten a big baby blue Eldorado when my buddy sent me over there, and he says, "Hey, you got to meet Joe. You've got to come over and meet Joe." He said and the reason is he knew he wanted to put the Joe Girard Sales Conference together, and this guy and myself were instructors with the Dale Carnegie Sales Course at the time, and so we meet Joe. Joe says, "Hey, Samo," he used to call me Samo, "you come to work with me. I'm going to get you out of that Eldorado and put you in a Rolls Royce where you belong." That always stuck with me.
Perfect.
It was a sales thing in a way. In a way, it was kind of the put down, or whatever. But I took it positively. That's when our relationship was born. And I've seen him interact with a lot of people, and the story that I love to tell, if you guys will permit me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Is the story of all times. This is like circa 1981. Joe was out of the business. He's been out. He's got How to Sell Anything to Anybody Ready to Come Out, published by Simon & Schuster. His old boss, or real upper boss, the vice president, general manager of Chevrolet, had moved over to American Motors. And I think American Motors back in that time frame, with the whole automotive industry was suffering. So he calls Joe, and that was the good thing about Joe. People called him. He didn't have to call people. And he said, "Joe, you think you can come over and help us out over here? And of course, Joe's, hey, Tom, yeah, you bet, boom. And so we get together, and he builds this whole, by today's standards, it would be old-time technology, but the standards then, this was like first class. He spared nothing in this presentation. And so we get it all together. He had a guy that used to work for one of the big advertising agencies who came in and put together, we had a big board, Joe Girard on it, and then we had the thing about the Joe Girard sales conference, the Joe Girard one-day workshop. And we had Joe Girard speaking engagements. So and at that time it was only one, this beautiful thing laid out there. And so we get in there, we get into the meeting, and if you've been around any of the boys in Detroit, you know they travel with a caravan. There's a bunch of people always around them, ready to take care of anything they need. Hey, get us coffee. Hey, take my briefcase. Yeah, you know. So we all get into this big, and I've never seen a longer conference desk than I can remember from that room. And so we're in there, and everybody, I do my thing. This guy from the ad agency does his thing and his thing because he didn't have the co-author of the book with him. He did all big thing on the book, blah, blah, blah. And then we had, hey, you have an objection you can't answer? Call the Joe Girard sales hotline. And we had an 800 number. And so we present all this. And the room becomes quiet. Tom Murphy's sitting on one end of the room, and I'm on the other, Joe, me, and this guy, I can't remember his name, we're on the other end. And Joe says, hey, Tom, what do you think? And Tom looks to his left, looks to his right, looks around. He said, well, Joe, he said, we think we're going to try it we'll try it in a zone or two. And if it goes well, we'll roll it out. And I'm there like, now my heart's beating because, you know, that was taking on the Joe Girard sales conference, you know, was all part of that deal where they'd have the 13-week or 12-week courses and so on. So I get excited when I think about that moment. Now, here's the thing. I wish I could, it would mean so much more if I could make the noise that I heard. But I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for Joe to say, well, hey, Tom, good. Wait a minute, I'll have Sam get with you and we'll, all of a sudden, and it sounded like a shotgun blast. And Joe came down and it hit that table. And everybody's now like, what? And then he steps, you got to get this picture. He steps up on a chair, and then he steps from that chair onto that long table. And he walks down, and he gets right in front of Tom's face. Tom's sitting there like this. Joe gets up, and he points right in his face. And he says, you take it all, or you take nothing, Tom. And can you imagine the shock in that room? So Tom rolls back and he says, okay, Joe, let us think about it. You know, follow up with us in a couple of weeks. And of course, I was the guy that followed up. Right. And you know, nobody ever followed up. There was nobody. And so he killed that part of it off. But I don't know to this day whether that was good or bad. I know it would have been really good for me, but I didn't know what it was for him. So anyhow, I'm off track. Get me back on.
That's all right. Wrap it up. We're wrapping it up.
You know, I think that in listening to this whole story, which has been awesome, I could go on. I would love to hear more, even more, but I know we can't do that here now, right now. Well, next time we're at an event together, Sam, we'll sit down and chat some more. But you know, if there's one thing that I picked up with everything that you're talking about with Joe Girard is he cared about people. And one of the things when it came to the cards and all the cards he was sending, and when he got to the point where he was overwhelmed, and he still kept doing it, he found a way that his customers still heard from him all the time. And, you know, and I think that's what we bring to the table with send out cards and promptings. And I think sometimes we just kind of like, you know, how many people we're talking to all the time and they say, oh, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to this. Well, you don't have time not to. You know, I mean, find a way. We have that gap. You know, we can really make that work for people. And I can imagine that you know, had we been around in his day, he would have just absolutely loved what we had to offer.
Absolutely, yeah. In his later years, by the way, he was my customer for a while, but by then he was winding down.
Sure.
His business had changed. He would go out and find small to medium car dealers in little towns, and he would take his um, what do you call them? We don't use them so much anymore since you could flash pictures up on a screen.
Projector.
Project, thank you. He'd take his projector and go in. He had all kinds of series and pictures of his cars, and he would walk him through all of that. And
That is amazing. That's like amazing. He was a customer. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Nice.
He came close to being an affiliate with me, but it didn't quite work out.
Hey, what a life he had, and what an experience for you to have had the opportunity to work with such a great person.
That's what sold me on send-out cards. The day that we met Jordan, it was January of 2005. I'm sorry if I'm taking this over. And Jordan laid this out to me. I said, "Hey, I'm in right now," and because I knew from working with small independent businesses, this was going to be something that
Right.
they couldn't say no to, and here we are.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Sam, I can't even tell you what it is a pleasure for you to be our first guest of 2024 and being part of our, you know, SOCTalks, which we hope people get benefit from, and I know they will this time. They're going to really dig into you this time.
You know what? I'm working on a project right now that something like this. There are so many people who have used send out cards over the years, and it has literally changed their business. It's changed their customers into a community. They've been loyal, they sustain, and they don't even know it because they have to be reminded. They've taken take advantage of it. So anyhow, I'm working on how to make a customer realize, hey, you've been with us a while. What do you? So anyhow, you get the picture, I'm sure. But
Sure. Well, we will have you back on here one of these days as you have developed that and continue to grow that, because I think that would be a great thing for everybody to learn and know about too. So
I will look forward to it. In fact, I will count the minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe.
We'll have you back on again. No, you don't. No need to suck up, Sam.
We've got our list of paper here. We're good.
Sam. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you
stories. And you know, here's another takeaway that as you're talking about Joe and talking to someone at Chevrolet or AMC, is we need to think bigger. We need to think, I can sell 5 of these 2,000 card packs because that's what they need. I think we're in a mindset, well, it's for certain, and we need to think bigger on businesses, on who we can go after and who can we talk to and who can we help, just like you said, build a community. So thank you so much for all of what you've added to this session or this show of ours today. So we appreciate it, and we will have you back on.
All right, thank you so much.
Awesome. Well,
Perfect.
Happy New Year to you, Sam.
Happy
Shawn,
New Year.
same thing, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.